Hey, peace out here. I watched the whole debate between the creationists and atheists, and in my opinion, the debate has flaws on both sides. First, the creationists. My problem with the creationists is their literal interpretation of the Bible and their refusal to look at scientific evidence that proves evolution. The problem is that the creation story of Genesis has become the supporting myth of people who are willfully ignorant of science, anthropology, and history, and they are ignorant of understanding the literary elements of figurative language like metaphor and symbolism. More specifically, the Genesis story of creation is humans' attempt to make sense of what they cannot honestly make sense of, and that's the beginning. Every culture that has a creation story has done the same thing, try to make sense of the unknown. One could even argue that the physicists today are still attempting to do the same with astrophysics, Big Bang Theory. Physicists are using much more sophisticated methods and instruments, but they are still trying to figure out why we're here. Anyone with the capacity to be curious does or should ask that question. It's just scientists and many Christians have made careers out of it. But we should listen to both. In other words, it doesn't have to be either or in the debate of the existence of God and creation. Using our scientific logic, I agree. We can't know for sure how the universe started. We can theorize that the universe is around 13 billion years old based on some very sophisticated mathematics that very few people understand. Einstein, and I would take his word for it, understood the math because he came up with the computations that led to the Big Bang Theory, and he divined a creator. That's because scientists can explain how things work in the universe, but they can't explain why things work the way they do. This is what Kirk Cameron and his buddy Comfort and the whole Left Behind crew are trying to argue with the picture of Mona Lisa, the how and why. Yes, we have a picture, we have a planet, we have a universe. Who created it? How did it get here? Okay, scientists don't know how it got here, and that doesn't mean we should dismiss it simply because the question of a creator, just because we don't know. But the problem with the Left Behind Christians is that they refuse to accept that when Genesis was written, the writer gave us the best account as he knew it. That, using our logic, would tell us that we've learned how to fly since then. Things have changed. Knowledge has changed. We understand much more, like evolution. I have formally and informally studied the evidence of evolution, and the scientific facts are quite conclusive. Evolution exists. But the question remains, why is it so difficult for Christians to believe? That their all-powerful God could not have created a universe that evolves and species that evolve? That, to me, makes God fit the model of all-powerful and divine. I can worship a God who has done all that. It's a beautiful creation, perfect in many ways. One of the flaws, though, in science is that they refuse to listen to those more intangible feelings that exist in humans, like imagination and idealism, or as the Christians call it, faith. Faith is good overall. It allows humans to imagine having or doing something, then makes it happen. Scientists have been doing this all along. They imagine the way the universe works, and they set out to prove it. The difference is that scientists' faith is conditional, based on the proof. In other words, truth is serial. Sometimes we learn something and then we learn something even more intelligent that makes more sense later, and we keep building on that. So truth is serial. Christians' faith in God is unconditional. Unfortunately, Christians don't realize that by believing science, they can still believe in God, and vice versa. Because scientists have so long professed their disbelief in God, Christians, for probably existential reasons, and mostly the fear of death, have chosen to stay in that safe, parochial mental place. And scientists, too, they too much worship their logic, which they find comfort in the logic themselves. Yet, many physicists are beginning to awaken to the idea of a creator, a God who created this highly complex universe. Because at the quantum level, things happen for which there's no explanation. Particles bend to human will. Wow, that's some heavy shit. Humans have power over the universe. Maybe the Bible was right. We are made in the image of God, and that image included power to alter the universe. Well, on a more basic level, if you look at the destruction of the planet, it's obvious that humans collectively can change the Earth's environment, the air, water, and land. We pollute. Like petulant children, we make messes that we don't want to clean up. But that power to change is more intimate. We can change the way we individually behave in our environment to pollute less. We can also change the way we behave towards other people, which affects the people we interact with on an emotional, chemical level. We can act in more loving, compassionate ways, which will change our family and friends. On a macro scale, we can non-violently fight for justice, peace, and speak out against violence. In other words, we can do unto others as we would have them do unto us. Yes, love our neighbors as ourselves. We can change the world. Individuals like Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. changed the world around them. The problem with atheists is that they let the few fundamentalists define who God is and who Jesus was and what he means to our lives today. As a former atheist, I learned to define God for myself, to look deeper into Jesus' teachings and not the mythology that surrounds Jesus. By doing that, I found some spiritual truths that I cannot deny. One truth is that if we don't love each other, our world, the human world, will be destroyed. But the earth, Mother Earth, from whence we sprang, will live on. The problem with fundamentalist Christians is that they look upon the Bible as the inerrant Word of God, which it may be. However, it's the interpretations that are fallible. Anybody who uses the Bible to justify evil is making a false interpretation. Jesus asked us to take up the sword only to hammer it into a plowshare, not to use violence against our fellow humans. I haven't gone into great depth in this video because there's a lot more to say and more to learn, even on my part. I suggest people read about the historical Jesus and quantum physics. Particularly watch the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? That should get you started. And as I say at the end of every video, remember, peace is only a mind away.